could come back to get it all. My friend Senator Gozofsky, he is a staunch supporter of veterans. I go to him, I'm a Republican, but I go to him as a Democrat. My friend over there, Kepler, she's another good friend of mine. Mr. Tucker, where's he at? All of these people, they're good legislators. But we need help from you people.
So I would just say, Chip, and you and everyone in this room should feel very good that we adopted fully the governor's plan to exempt military pensions full. So that's, it's something that we agree with, we support, we put our stamp on, and you are right, sir, that there are a lot of military that are retiring across this country, and we want them to look at the state of Maine, and we're going to do everything we can to do that.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm on the school board here in Brunswick, and if you want them to move here, keep investing in our schools. We're in this horrible position now where every year, because of the reduction in state funding, we're pitting property taxes against vital cuts in our schools. We're looking at cutting athletics, special ed. We're really cutting at the bone of our schools. So I just want to encourage you, I guess it's more feedback. Please continue to fight to bring more revenues from the state for education. It's a terrible position to be in. You have seniors in your community who fear losing the ability to stay in their home, and you have children with developmental disabilities in your school that you have a federal and state legal responsibility to educate. And we are right on a very sharp line of trying to achieve and please both of those needs. So to the extent that you will continue to fight for education,
I'd like to take a little different tack with a different group. I own a restaurant, and I hope, and I think we do, that you keep the tax rate for restaurants and especially for lodging higher, because I think your points about exporting the tax burden are important, and there are not very many of my colleagues in the biz who agree with me, but I think it is very important.
You're exactly right. What we can do with meals, what we can do with lodging, what we can do with rental vehicles, these are all exportable. Now, not entirely. We know that many Mainers go out to eat, and many Mainers go and stay places, staycations, right? And then obviously we rent vehicles too, but there are a huge portion, 30 million, that come in and use some aspect of all of those. And so yes, under our plan, lodging 8%, meals 8%, auto sales 10%. Now some might say, go higher, go to the New England average. Look, what we did with the better deal is we came up with as many solid points to give to the Appropriations Committee. It's out of our hands. It's in your hands. We have some role to play, but there are 13 members of the Appropriations Committee that are going to be working from now until the middle of June to put together a balanced budget. And they know the governor's plan. They now have seen the better deal, and they're going to have to come together, like Chip was saying, and figure out a way to coalesce and put something together that really works for all of Maine, all income levels, all geographic areas. And obviously, we really, really think that meals and lodging and auto rental sales are critically important to that equation.
I guess they prefer your plan. But I know I don't want to overly complicate where you are now. In the future, municipal services that are non-school need to be highly incentivized for regionalization. It's almost impossible to do it at the local level yourself. And it's just nothing that's gaining traction in these, what is it, looking at balance. We talked about regionalization and smart growth words. I mean, it's just, it needs to have a lot of pressure coming from the state to tie revenue share. So I'm a little concerned. I mean, I'd like seeing revenue sharing go up as a former municipal official.
steps later, there's other taxation committee might want to respond.
There is a bill, Jackie, through our committee now, I'm sorry, I can't remember at this moment what it is, but it creates the ability to create tips for shared municipal services. So it allows communities to jointly shelter some funds for, specifically for the creation of shared services. So there are some things going on specifically directed at trying to incentivize shared municipal services.
There's a carrot.
There are carrots.
I would love to see a couple.
I think it's a really good point, and I think what would be great is to hear ideas from local town officials or those that have served on town council and collect those, because whether it's school consolidation that we went through, the carrot or the stick, the combination of them, it doesn't work unless you do have buy-in at the local level. So maybe we can follow up after as well.
And I would just say that, look, the speaker said it best, that, we are not here to just kind of bash the governor. That's not productive. We know that, we understand that. And to give credit to the governor, he puts $10 million in 2 efficiency funds, one for schools and one for local services. And, I think it's a good idea. Again, he has more of the carrot approach. I think we learned under, Governor Baldacci had more kind of the stick approach to school consolidation. You probably need both to really create that pressure. But over the next 2-year budget, again, if it's adopted, there could be up to $10 million for schools to get more efficient, thinking about back office services, thinking about local communities to get more efficient. And that's something that the speaker, I think a lot of folks in the legislature really support. So again, the governor has some good ideas. We're trying to adopt them. The ones that he comes up short, we're going to try to improve on them.
We have a hand back.
I have a compliment and a question. The compliment, thank you for taking the taxes for the nonprofits off the table. As a supporter of many nonprofits and the finance committee of Mid-Coast Hunger Prevention Programs, I can imagine how much it would have devastated the nonprofits to have to deal with that tax. My question has to do with your support for colleges. I heard you mention community colleges. I didn't hear the university system, and I'm wondering if there's any support for the university system.
So in our plan, there isn't, but again, in the governor's proposal, which we support, he is giving not the full amount that they're requested each year, but basically the essential total package is about $10 million per year. It's about $20 million of direct investment, helping them with some of their debt service. And I don't see many folks that represent the University of Maine system, but they are pleased. And they're really fighting very hard to keep that intact. One of our leaders, one of our leaders on the other side, is speaking a lot about why do we need to make this investment in higher ed, and I couldn't disagree with them more. I mean, we need to really be investing for the whole continuum, pre-K through college, and pre-K we're investing $4 million in this budget. Obviously, in K through 12, I mentioned our $20 million. The governor puts in $15 million each year, so it's about a $35 million investment in K through 12 each year, so $70 million total if we adopted the better deal. And then community colleges, $6 million, University of Maine system, $20 million. So again, and let me just say this, I mean, this is not even really keeping up with any of those entities' real costs. I mean, so it's just, but it's a start, and under the terms that we're playing in with divided government, we've got to really pull hard to just get these aspects moving forward with our investments in education.
Hi, thanks. My name is Annie Graham, and I live in North Yarmouth, and I'm now part of Senator Kozlowski's Senate district. And first I want to say thank you. You all are now working like dogs. And I know how hard it is as a former member of the body, so thank you so much for taking this time. I know you'd rather be at home with your family, so thank you so much. My question is, the governor, in the governor's budget proposal, he's essentially gutting the fund for healthy Maine and essentially destroying the Healthy Maine partnerships. In Maine, unlike many other states, we have no real public health infrastructure. It's often carried by the counties. We have good public health infrastructure for the Maine, paying for, but otherwise, we depend on the Fund Healthy Maine and Healthy Maine partnerships. And I wanted to ask you and our legislators here if you would be supportive of not really restoring it.
And the question was, the Fund for Healthy Maine is about $10 million per year that the governor takes out of the proposed budget. It has been proven to be extremely successful. All of us smart people in this room know prevention saves money in the long term. It is something that is a top priority for us to kind of cut to the chase, and we'll be fighting hard. Unfortunately, we've had to fight hard for nearly 5 years now, year after year after year for that. That's the tobacco settlement money. It's supposed to go towards tobacco prevention and smoking cessation and into our public health infrastructure. So we will be fighting hard for it.
In one of your slides, you're talking about investing and primarily in the educational system, which I think is absolutely critical for our future. But in order to expand the economy, one of the things that we hear consistently is the lack of job training and a workforce that has the skills for tomorrow's economy. There was a piece in one of those that talked about job training just for a moment. What is the plan going forward on that issue?
Sure, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we have, since January, been around the state doing a jobs tour, really doing exactly what has been recommended, and that is looking at what our workforce needs are, what the training needs are, working with our community college system. I like to talk about the example in my backyard, literally, with Pratt Whitney and the York County Community College. We, as a legislature, were able to partner with the business community to develop a precision machining program. We are now turning out workers that are filling those jobs. We're very fortunate to have large anchor employers like Pratt Whitney in the shipyard, but there are over 30 different businesses within York County that benefit from that training program. So we've been all over the state trying to identify what are the needs on the ground, the workforce needs, partnering with the community college system to develop these training programs. So when we invest our dollars and match them, we're actually having a huge benefit in terms of the actual benefit of workforce and workforce development. That example in York County, and we're working on a program now potentially with the professional loggers contractors in Maine to develop training programs. Those types of programs, you have more than 100% placement. When I say more than 100% placement, kids or workers that are being retrained to go into these fields. I'll use the example again in York County. Employers are finding those students and saying, we have a job for you before you graduate. So they start work and they continue their college experience, they graduate, and it is remarkable. When you can have more than 100% job placement, those are the types of jobs we need to be investing in. Those are the high-wage jobs that we need to be investing in. It's not rocket science. It's no mystery to it. It's boots on the ground, figuring out what the needs are, finding collaboration and partnerships, and developing the programs that we need in the state. And that is what the business community, and that is what employers around the country are looking for. They look for workforce first, and that's what we're investing in.
And just to add one piece, and the speaker said it perfectly, but in the better deal, we have left around $60 billion of unaccounted money. And we said to our appropriations committee, you should go and spend this on investments in our future. And if that's in workforce, if that's more in education, if that's in public health, you all are the decision makers around how the money is spent. And again, not only is our deal paid for, but we have a little bit of extra cushion in order to spend strategically in our future, while also giving you the benefits of a better tax cut, a more strategic tax cut for most of Maine. So it's a great question, and it's something that we felt was very, very valuable for the Appropriations Committee to have a little bit of room there to negotiate with some strategic investments.
Right here with the book.
Yes. Can you give us, as of today, some sense of how your colleagues in the House and in the Senate are receiving this plan on the other side of the aisle? In what areas do you see that will be negotiating that you'll have to discuss? And by the way, congratulations on the vote in the House today about Anne. And it's just a shame.
Thank you. I'll answer the first question first. We're really waiting to see. The governor's come out with his plan, start a really important conversation We brought our plan forward. We're waiting to see what the Republican legislators are going to do, quite frankly. Whether they're going to come to the table to negotiate a deal that will provide tax relief for Mainers. Whether it's our version of our plan or they start with the governor's framework, they've been very cool to any type of tax conversation. So it is, I guess, my best way to say is time will tell. We do need to be done in the legislature by the end of June. So I think we're getting to the point where decisions are going to need to be made. We're fully invested, fully at the table to make sure that the middle class gets a tax cut, property tax relief happens, and we invest in these strategic areas that we've outlined. So it's always difficult to predict, and I've learned a lesson. I shouldn't predict what legislators are going to do, but I think Senator Alfond and myself feel really good about the work that went into developing a plan that represented our values and a strong counter proposal that is credible, paid for, and will grow our economy. And I won't address the other thing, but we'll talk offline.
I'm Irvin Snyder, a Brunswick resident. I appreciate what you are working on in this plan that you put forward. I'd like to speak this evening for a moment as a board member of Midcoast Hospital. We're fortunate in this town to have the most efficient hospital in the state. It provides really high-quality service. But this administration's program and budget strikes 5 different areas of our operation that will seriously injure Midcoast Hospital. We're an operation that runs in the black. There are a lot of hospitals in this state that don't and that are on the edge. And in these 5 areas, if your proposals don't prevail, we're going to have hospitals that are in trouble. I provided a copy of the brochure to the speaker, and I've got one for the senator, and I hope that you will deal with this. 2.8 million lost in operating funds for Midcoast if the governor's program goes through. Even without the nonprofits, it's 2.3 million. And one of these areas is the Maine health for Maine Hospital. So these are areas that don't get a lot of talk, but are seriously important for all of us.
I agree 100%. And in addition to those cuts that are proposed in the governor's budget, one of the things that we can do that would have a fundamental change in a very positive way for Midcoast Hospital and for all the hospitals across the state and our healthcare system in the state is to expand Medicaid. Yes. It really is a no-brainer. We just had a recent study come out to demonstrate how much savings we would have as a state, and we would not be talking. I would guarantee you that for Midcoast Hospital would do more than the cuts that the governor is proposing. So it is a fight that we're continuing to fight. We had a hearing last week. It was really unfortunate to get as close as we did last time and not get there, but we're going to continue to fight because we believe so fundamentally that it's the right thing to do for our economy and for our people. So, and thank you for your service at Midcoast as well. It's a great hospital. Back.
I certainly feel that you have crafted a better budget that we as Democrats can embrace. But given the politics alluded to a moment ago, it's going to be a very tough sell. Have you given any thought to having MESEP or anyone else do a projection that takes us out beyond 2 or 4 years to show that investing will actually bring in a return, and for any kind of parameters or possibilities, projections of such a return? Because it seems to me that might be valuable. We won't persuade people on the far right, but we might persuade some people in the center that this kind of tax plan and investment is a much better long-term arrangement for me.
So, great question, just about, how can we just build up more than 2 years, let's go 4 years, 6 years. With Visa and their national affiliate, we spent a lot of time making sure that the numbers work. Look, it's very easy to go out and say things like, oh, let's just cut the income tax to 0 and have no plan to pay for it. But I don't think that's responsible leadership. And I am talking about the governor's proposal. That's just not responsible. He hasn't given us any plan on how he would replace the $1.6 billion that we would lose as a state if we got eliminated the income tax. So we knew we couldn't just put together something that was just, pie in the sky. We knew we had to work from day one. So in our 2 and 4 year plan, we didn't go out any further than 4 years. We have a plan that works as far as it makes these strategic investments. It has a little bit of money for other kind of things that we know are important to grow Maine's economy. And I think that's one of the biggest parts that our colleagues across the aisle are at least sitting down and thinking about. We have had 3 different occasions to have a discussion about constraining spending, Koleski and 2 Tapers. And as a state, we have resoundingly said no. That is not going to be in the best interest of our state. Because we looked at states like Colorado that artificially have spending constraints. And what's going on in Colorado? The speaker talked about Kansas, talked about Louisiana. I mean, there's these states out there that had this wonderful slogan, oh, if we just cut our taxes as low as possible, every business is going to come to our state. Well, in those states that have cut too drastically, that had no plan to replace the revenue, in fact, those companies didn't come. Because companies look at the entire picture of a state. How is your infrastructure? How is your pre-K through college education system? What investments are you making in public health? And in those states, it doesn't look good, and companies aren't going there, and now they're having to make drastic cuts all over the place. So we feel very good about our plan, 2 years and 4 years. We have to get Republicans to join us and to work with us. We know that every aspect of the better deal is not going to be accepted by the Republicans, but we knew we had to have a credible counter-proposal to bring to the table, not just for this fight, but to really showcase to independents, Republicans, and Democrats what we believe in, how we think we're going to grow Maine's economy, and a big part of it is showcased in the better deal.
Mr. Speaker, in our area, we have senior citizens who are living Social Security check to Social Security check. The latest COLA was what, 1.5? Now they're going to propose a property tax increase of about 5%. You have indicated, with a passion, by the way, to keep seniors in their homes. And I think that's what we need to do. And I'd like to hear what you've got to say about that.
Well, thank you. I feel like that was a great intro. Presentation for the student.
Right down the middle.
I presented a bill, actually, one of 3 initiatives that we were putting forward, dubbed our Keeping Me Home, which was actually kicked off here in Brunswick last August. And the first part of that is senior affordable housing. The second is property tax relief for seniors. And the third is making sure that we have a direct care workforce that is adequately paid for the work that they do. So there are a number of different initiatives in the State House right now. What we all recognize as policymakers, and I'm really proud of the profile that's been raised around this issue so that we can start doing some really good work. Maine being the oldest state in the nation, people are believing that we also have an opportunity here as a state to make sure that we're doing right by our seniors and leading the way for the rest of the country. So we can be a model for the rest of the country in terms of how to address an aging demographic. It has a huge impact on our workforce. We have a retiring workforce in this state that is alarming. So when we go around and we talk to the loggers, or the machinists, or any profession, the average age is alarming in terms of how quickly they're approaching retirement. So as a state, we do need a strategic plan to make sure that we're replacing those retiring workers and we're doing right by those that work so hard for a secure retirement. So whether it is a fixed income, where 30% of our seniors in the state live on Social Security alone, or for about $12,000 a year, or you've been able to save and plan for a retirement, whatever category you fall in, we felt like putting forward a plan that really was able to address whatever stage of life you were in, a better deal for you, and we're really proud to bring it forward. So thank you, Chick, for that plug. Thank you.
One more thing. I would like to recognize a couple more of our legislators. You know, I'm looking for votes. So,
Me too.
Representative Deschamps from over there in Bath, thank you. Representative Dupree, where's she at?
Right down front.
There you go, thank you. Thank you, and all you people from out of town, I appreciate your coming here too. Enjoy Brunswick, we got a lot of sun.
Alan Karen. First, I think that's a great work. So thank you. Thank you for going around and talking about it. I'm not sure I love every part of it, but I'm sure I hate the page. I just want to urge you, this is all going to roll in the next 6 weeks, and I hope it goes well. I want to urge you to think hard before the next session about closing the loopholes on the jobs tax credits. What just happened at the Great Northern should make all of us crazy. I mean, $16 million going out of the state. I wrote about it for 50 Iceberg. Hundreds of millions of dollars were handing out for people who are promising jobs and not delivering. And we've got to close those loopholes. We've got to measure tax breaks. We should not be against tax breaks for jobs. If somebody's going to create a job, we should give them a tax break. But we ought to measure it. We ought to know it actually happens. It isn't just a false promise. This is the elephant in the room, I think, for the next session. And I want to urge you not to wait for LePage, because he'll never do anything about it. Take the lead. Press them. Make them respond. This is the biggest issue, I think, right now. And I'll just say frankly, I wrote last week, $16 million we've got no jobs for. If you took that money and gave it to 1,000 small businesses in Maine on this deal, we will give you a $16,000 tax break if you will create one decent job. I believe the small businesses in Maine would come forward and they would create those jobs. And instead of having nothing now, we would have 1,000 jobs and 1,000 small businesses that are stronger and communities that are healthy. So please think about taking the lead on that. I think this is part of the trickle-down strategy, but it's even worse because we know we've been doing this for 40, 50 years, and New York Times said it's as much as $500 million a year. Where are the jobs? So we've got to do our homework there, and we've got to measure this. And if somebody creates a job, give them the money. If they don't, take it back.
Thank you, Alan, for the question. And one of the kind of real big achievements that really wasn't celebrated that much in the 126 last session was that we created a process for all expenditures in our state to be reviewed, which is the first time in our state's history. We will review all the tax expenditures on a rolling basis, review each program, review the outcomes, review the accountability, and those that aren't meeting mustard, we're going to be bringing in saying what is going on, because we in the state have strategic dollars to invest for those companies that are actually doing the work, that are creating jobs, that are paying fair wages, they're giving good benefits. But if you are doing what Kate Street was doing, which I think is a bad apple, a bad actor, you have no business being in our state and really in any state, because it's really a tragedy what they did to our tax system. And you know, the new market tax credit could be a good program. It could, and in fact, there's been multiple examples of it working well. But these guys looked for desperation. They looked at the town of Millinocket and saw a town like us all that want to help so badly, and they took advantage of us. They took advantage of our state, and we need to close those loopholes.
It is not correct. It's not for building housing. And everyone says, I'm building affordable housing. So I also want to speak to the disabled, people who are waiting for a voucher. It's a 5-year wait to get a voucher to be able to afford an apartment. That's outrageous.
So the question is, and I get this a lot, what is affordable? We also get the question, what is middle class? What is the dollar amount? So affordable in the proposal that we're bringing forward to create 1,000 units all across the state, that income range is between 20 and 40,000. Now I know that for many people, that's still unaffordable. What we are going to do is make sure that we build into our program an ability to access and use some of those housing vouchers and the development of these projects. So there's a combination approach, but that is kind of how we define it. And again, if we are successful, we'll be able to build these in all 16 counties. 1,000 seems like a lot, but it's a drop in the bucket. There are about 9,000 seniors right now on a wait list for affordable senior housing. In just a few years, it's going to be 15,000. So we can't wait another year to get this going. Hopefully, we're able to pass it, goes out to the voters in November, and people can start building these units that are extremely needed right now.
And just to talk about another side around income and what you're paying, under the better deal, you can earn up to $18,150, $18,150, and pay no state income taxes under the better deal. So again, for low-income folks across the state, that's a big deal. No state income taxes. If you're a family with 2 kids, that number is just over $44,000 that you would pay no state income taxes. Again, and this is kind of leveraging some of the things the governor was talking about. We also agree that we have to really, really target and make sure that we are making the right investments. And obviously, we want Mainers who are struggling. We're trying to climb up that ladder to do well in our plan. And so I think both of those numbers are probably pretty important as we're thinking about, helping all Mainers really, really succeed in our communities across the state.
I'm Esther Lacatara. We're singing very eloquently here. This is the choir singing. You're speaking to the choir. I'm interested in what is the strategy to convince some of your colleagues on the other side. What common ground can you see? Now, one example is we got Valencia in Thompson, and she's speaking about the property tax. The right way to speak about the property tax. Well, the property tax is going to go up because it's holding back the funds that revenue sharing and education funding. So somehow it just puzzles me how people end up voting against their own best interests. And how can we all know what needs to be done. We agree with you, but what is your strategy to bring your other side around?
The question around strategy and how to get to an end game, first of all, was engaging in this in a way that was a credible plan, so that when they reviewed it, they saw that this wasn't just a PR stunt that we were trying to outdo them on, but this was a credible proposal that we're sitting down at the table negotiating with them. I think they acknowledge that. Actually, I know that they acknowledge that and understand that it is a real credible plan. It's just not a press release on a one-pager. It's well vetted. It was also about, again, adopting part of the governor's plan where we could, and making sure that we have some place to start from. So again, I think a big question mark here is what are the Republicans in the legislature going to do? I think that the ball is really in their court. We've come forward with the proposal the governor has. We both agree that some type of tax reform should happen. We think that our tax system is broken. We have an opportunity to do that, and we really need to see what the legislative Republicans are going to do. We're talking with them. We're trying to encourage collaboration around this, but it's really the choice, I think, is on them and up to them around whether they want to take this opportunity to make sure that we can provide a tax cut, or are they going to let us slip away?
And just specifically, there have been some places that we've already come together. So the Republicans have firmly rejected the nonprofit tax. They're not going to do it, including the Maine Heritage Policy Center. They came out against it. So, I guess that's the bellwether. So, we're down. I think the Maine Heritage Policy Center said no taxes on nonprofits. All of a sudden, they were like, okay, we feel we got enough room. We can move in that direction. Revenue sharing And again, this is the Republicans on the taxation committee. They rejected the governor's plan to eliminate revenue sharing. This is a big deal. This is a big deal, and part of it was because of the better deal. Also around sales taxes. They're very, very comfortable with going up to 6.5%. So I suspect that piece of the better deal also will have some legs to find common ground. So there are three pieces. There needs to be a lot more pieces to come together. But because of this plan, because of all of you working day in, day out, it's like there's a real role for you all, not just here. We can all sing really well at the choir, right? But we need you all to be contacting your legislators, emailing, phone calls, calling the Republican offices, calling the governor. All of these things make a difference. And it's not going to happen just because we're out here on the road selling this. We need all of Maine to participate in a better budget for the next 2 years. Yes.
First of all, you are much kinder to the governor than I could ever be. So I
A lot of training.
The governor has some very punitive welfare proposals. I know they're not part of this package, but what is the Democratic position in contra to those proposals?
So for us, the position, I think the question was the welfare proposals.
Yes.
We just went through a grueling campaign, but that was the bullseye, the cornerstone for the governor's campaign. I think they feel very emboldened and encouraged by that in terms of moving some things forward. Our perspective is some of the work that we've done in the last 2 years that hasn't gotten a whole lot of publicity or press is creating opportunities for people. That when somebody is on public assistance, that they're getting the job training and education that they need to access a good paying job. So that's where we're going to focus our attention, making sure that we're developing programs and creating opportunities for people so that they don't have to rely on welfare. But we also recognize the stresses and the struggles of people that live in poverty.